Welcome into today's video, you guys. I want to talk about the Sephora bestsellers that I actually think are worth the hype. Everyone has been posting their Sephora recommendations. I did not do one. I feel weird doing recommendation videos when I basically live on Sephora's website, so I thought I would approach this from kind of a different perspective. I took a look at Sephora's bestsellers last night, and there's around 200 different things, including individual products, sets, hair care, skincare, brushes. I have a ton of those items in my collection, a ton. But I picked out every single thing that I actually think deserves to be on Sephora's bestsellers. Now, as you know, a lot of those items are bestsellers because they're trending, they're brand new releases, and of course, new items, people are purchasing them so that they can test them out. That's how that goes. Some of these aren't newer items and they're just popular because I think that they're really good. Now, I didn't pick out everything from the bestsellers list that I have in my collection, because if I go through that list, I have so many of those items in my collection. I scrolled right on past the ones I did not think really deserved the hype. They're good, but they're not great in my opinion, or they don't offer something different, or they don't make me feel a certain way. So this is my version of Sephora recommendations while the sale is still going on. So let's hop into 19 of my favorite products from the Sephora's bestsellers list. I think I'm going to start off how I would just normally apply these things to my face. It makes it simpler for me to kind of go through the products. The first one that I have is the Cali Ray Hideaway, long name, Brightening plus Hydrating Under Eye Serum Concealer. This is also a new release, so I expect to see it there, but I also think it's getting hype for good reason. I have mine in the shade Dusk, which is the pink shade. This is a very unique product, all on its own, not just being a new release. It's a serum color corrector. When I first started getting into makeup, most of the color correctors were like a whipped formula. Most of them were potted. A lot of them were a little bit thicker. And then gradually we started seeing brands come out with a liquid concealer format or formula. We saw Milani come out with one. I did use the Milani one, but I initially wasn't really impressed with it because I didn't think it color corrected that well. Whereas this product I think does. I enjoy a lot of Cali Ray products just in general. I've done a full face. I've purchased everything from their line except their like plumping gloss. And overall, I'm a really big fan. This product is super smooth, is very lightweight, does its job color correcting, and I can lay every single type of concealer on top of this. I've laid, I can't even tell you how many concealers on top of this. I love the way this feels. It never looks too heavy. It's $28, but it's a fully glass jar. It's fairly weighted. It's good quality. Overall, packaging and performance is a 10 out of 10 for me. I reach for this all the time. In fact, I don't even think this is left where I film and where I get ready since I bought it, which is very unusual for me, but it's been doing such a good job. I don't ever worry about what concealer I'm putting on top of it. I wear it every day, and I prefer it more than the Milani, simply because I don't think the Milani does as good a job actually color correcting as this, so I'm willing to pay more for this for sure. We'll go into base products next. This is also a new release, but I also believe it deserves to be on the bestsellers list. This is the Supergroup Protect Tint Daily SPF Tint with SPF 50. I didn't even know this was on the Sephora's bestsellers list. I bought this when it was brand new, and then I had it sitting in one of my baskets, and I didn't even get to try it right away because I didn't have any other new products to test with it, and I just didn't feel like I wanted to do an individual try-on video with this particular product. But once a couple more new releases came out and I paired it with it to do like a full face of new makeup, I was like, why had I let it sit there so long? I don't know. I also never followed the hype of Supergroup Unseen Sunscreen or any of their other products that have come out. I had the Unseen sunscreen like way back when it first launched, or maybe it wasn't even the Unseen. It was like the original sunscreen, and I was not overly impressed. I thought it was a high price point for a little bit of SPF. I would rather get like a giant SPF for me and my fair skin than pay a higher price point for just a little bit of product. So I didn't even think that I was gonna love this. This is gorgeous. This is just a different kind of product. It's almost like, to me personally, it has pigmentation inside of sunscreen, where I put it on the back of my hand and I have to kind of rub it in to see what the color is gonna look like. And it almost looks like there's two different formulas that have been meshed together. Quite literally what it looks like when I put a foundation and maybe a luminizer onto the back of my hand and kind of rub it in. That's what it gives me. It gave me so much more coverage than I thought it was going to give. So that might upset you guys. I do honestly think that we're entering the era of people calling things skin tints, but they have a ton more coverage than an actual skin tint gives you. But that aside, it's so beautiful on the skin because it's blurring, it's smoothing, it's medium natural coverage, but the longevity on it surprised the crap out of me. I thought it was gonna fade off. I thought it was gonna be lighter coverage. I thought I was looking at basically a tinted sunscreen that was more made for sunscreen than it was tint. I think this was made with more tint than sunscreen, but it has SPF 50 with PA++++. It's safe for all skin types. It's vegan, it's cruelty free. It's also got no synthetic fragrance. The coverage is beautiful on this. And for me, being combo oily skin, oily especially in the summertime, but combo almost all year round, this is a product that I can use. And I'm really shocked that it is, because I don't think it's made for people with oily skin. At least that's what it says on Sephora's website. But it doesn't create any dryness on the skin. It feels hydrating, even though it feels like a self-setting product. So I feel like anybody with any skin type could get along with that. I feel like that deserves all the hype that it gets. It's even sold out in like the lightest shades that they have right now on Sephora's website. They don't even have this on Supergoop's website. They probably made it exclusive for Sephora, at least initially based on the contract that they have with Sephora before they're able to bring this to their own website. So it is not there yet. That kind of tells you something, but also it's just really damn good. If I'm talking a lot about each of these products, you guys, it's because I genuinely like them and have really decent thoughts about this stuff. Let's move into two products here that I consider under the foundation products. The first one is the iconic London Instant Sunshine Bronzing Drops. This only comes in a universal shade so far. It's really interesting packaging. It's just unique in and of itself, which Iconic London is really good at doing. It makes you think about it too. That's another thing that Iconic London does with a lot of their packaging, is that it's memorable in that way, but their formulas are usually outstanding. So this is super unique type of bronzing drops for me. And I will tell you, I'm obsessed with gel bronzers at the current moment. I literally keep them everywhere. Drugstore, high-end, whatever. I'm just obsessed with them that are the right tone. I'm just showing you one that's drugstore version that I'm like in love with, and I keep it here on my filming station. This one is different from a lot of the bronzing drops that I have because it's more gold, because it's thicker, because it's less of a watery gel texture. It's just a stiffer gel texture. I have worn this under the foundation. I've worn this over the foundation. The first time I tested this product, I put it probably on the back of my hand and with a brush or a sponge, and I just buffed it across the forehead. That lasted all day long, literally all day. I came back doing the wear test on the rest of my makeup, and it was still one of the things that was like fully intact when I came back. I think it's a little bit gold to do that unless you have like a deeper complexion. I think as a universal shade that's a little bit darker, this is more truly bronzy gold. So I prefer having fair skin to really mix this into the foundation. The thing is, a lot of times bronzing drops, when I mix them into a foundation, will change the color, but they don't add any additional glow. Whereas this one actually gives you that luminosity because it's so gold and vibrantly metallic without meshing with the formula of the foundation, without it looking too much, without it deepening the product. It really just gives you an all over radiant finish. It's another hit from Iconic London. I am a huge fan of Iconic London too. I've said this last year, some of their stuff was some of my favorite products, more so than I feel like a lot of people talk about. That's just my personal preference, but I have been talking that particular product up quite a bit. I want to talk about another product that I personally use under the foundation. This is the Say Glowy Super Gel in the shade Star Glow. I have tried a ton of luminizers or glowy gels or under the foundation and over the foundation. Charlotte probably kicked us off initially with her Hollywood Flawless filter, and now a ton of companies are coming out with them. When Say came out with this probably 2 years ago at this point, I immediately fell in love with this product. Most of the luminizers that I use, because of the type of foundation that I go for, which is usually more medium to full coverage and more oil controlling, which means they have a matte finish, I oftentimes do not even see a difference when I use products like this. But I have worn this on top of the foundation. I've worn it under the foundation. I've even worn this all on its own. The reason I think this is probably very different than a lot of them is, for example, the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. The lightest shade, in my personal opinion, comes out a little bit yellow or a little bit champagne, and it's not something that I feel like even shows when I put a foundation on top of it. I also feel like it's a little bit of a thicker formula than I really like as a luminizer. And you'd think thicker, it would show when you put foundation on top of it. I don't. And I have gone back and forth with the Charlotte. Do I like it over foundation or do I like it under foundation? But I've never questioned this product. I've liked it every way that I've tried it. And I think for me that stands out in my mind. I usually mix this product in with foundation when I'm going with a lighter coverage day or something like that, because I do think it looks very healthy on the skin. It's also one of the few that I would wear all on its own. I think it has a unique lightweight formula. Again, it's one of those products that gives you luminosity without being sparkly or having infused mica in it that just makes it look shiny. I would skip past all other luminizers, honestly. This would be my top recommendation. And I told you it came out 2 years ago, so it's still on the Sephora's bestseller list for a reason. Let's go into a powder. There were a lot of different powders that were on the Sephora's bestseller list. I skipped through all of them except this one, and I have 3 products from this particular brand. And the reason that I do is because I do have combo oily skin, and I think this brand specifically caters to people with combo to oily skin. The powder that I brought in was from One Size. This is the Ultimate Setting Powder. I have mine in the shade Ultra Pink. I picked up the pink powder when it released as a new release. I don't know if the pink powder is the best seller. It's just that this powder on Sephora's website right now is listed as the best seller, but he does have other shades in this. This is of course just a mini, but the reason I think this is so good is because it's very similar to another one that I absolutely love. It's the Moira Beauty Ultra Pink Powder. I think the both of those are very similar, honestly. Of course, we're not talking about anything that's on the Sephora's bestseller list, but that one is a great dupe if you guys love this powder. I'll just put that out there. I like pink powders because I think they're brightening. And generally where I get the most oily and where I would brighten is literally in my T-zone. So I think pink powders are fantastic. I like to go light, obviously right under my bronzer, on my nose, under my eyes. That's where I would normally brighten my face. And so I find a use for pink powders. This just happens to be one that isn't too heavy on the under eyes and one that actually locks my makeup down throughout the day that looks good across the rest of my complexion or where I typically get more oily. So I thoroughly enjoy this. I think that if you guys have oily skin, this is definitely a powder that you would want to check out. And I recommend the pink. I only brought in one bronzer aside from the iconic London Bronzing Drops, which I personally don't wear as a bronzer. And there were many different bronzers that were on the site. I pulled this one in because I think it's unique. I don't think there's any other one that I've tried or that I know of on the market that performs like this one. So this is the Merit Bronzing Balm Stick. Bronze Balm, I guess. This one is in the shade Clay. The reason that I think this one is very unique is because it's not very pigmented. It's a balm in stick form. It's radiant. It's more realistic. I'm learning so much more about what my preferences are as it relates to bronzers, both in formula and in tone. I feel like I've been making decisions about the ones that I really just don't want to reach for. And I think what I see a lot of is just more intensely pigmented bronzers, which for fair skin oftentimes doesn't look the greatest in my personal opinion on my personal skin type. I prefer something also a little bit more neutral to take away the orange, or even something that has a reddish undertone because it's more flattering when you put a blush on top of it, especially with your undertone. Sometimes blush tones can change and reddish tones can look really good. Anyway, having said all of that, the Merit stick is very unoffensive, and I think it suits a lot of those needs. It's a lighter weight formula. It's also lighter toned. It gives a more radiant finish, which I oftentimes looks more natural on fair skin. I just love that it's a more desaturated pigmentation. The formula is super smooth. Once you buff it in, it just looks really natural. There's one other product that I will say I like probably more than this for everything that I'm describing, which is the RMS Bariti bronzer, which RMS no longer sells on the Sephora website. So I will give a shout out to that one. But honestly, as it relates to a natural looking flush, Merit is really good. And as you guys may know, this has been out for 2 years at this point. So it's still on the Sephora's bestsellers list, I think for good reason. But that was as of last night. Who knows if that changed, you know? I've got a couple of products for Merit actually. In fact, it's probably unusual for me to have liked so many Merit products because I don't love makeup, no makeup at all, as you can see by my complexion and my eyes right now. I would prefer to really play around and go heavy with something. It's just my personal preference. Everyone has their own. But as you know, Merit is more natural beauty, minimalist beauty, which is generally not my preference, but they have some really top-notch products, I have to say. The next one is a tool. It's a brush. This is the #1 brush from Merit. And actually one of their other brushes landed on the bestseller list. And I think it's good, but I don't think it's the best the way that I feel like this one is. The reason I feel like this is so good is because it's like perfect in every way. It's not a brush that I feel I need to change. I think it works great for so many different types of products. I love it for foundation because it's like the perfect density. It's also like this perfect curve. It kind of like hugs every part of my face. That's why I think it's great for every product. But I love it for foundation because it makes it look so flawless. Also, the handle. Something about this particular handle and the size of this really makes this a fun brush to use. I'm not opposed to like a giant handle, but like, you know, 90% of this handle is probably useless. And Merit's brushes are just a little bit smaller and I find them easy to control and just delivers a nicer application. So I have to give it to that brush. All right, I want to move into setting sprays. I only pulled in 1 setting spray. I'm not sure how many were on there. I'm sure I have at least 2 that might have landed on the Sephora bestsellers list, but this is the only one that I would have given it to. This is the On Till Dawn Mattifying Waterproof Setting Spray from One Size. Some of you may not like the fact that it's in this type of can, which I feel like a lot of people are getting away from. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's a really good setting spray targeted to people with oily skin. And not a lot of setting sprays are. And a lot of setting sprays claim to lock down the makeup or be more hydrating. I have a couple that are drugstore, don't get me wrong, that I feel like say mattifying and waterproof. But I'm like, meh. To a lot of them, I just don't think they do what they claim, whereas I do think that this one does. I feel like it gives you the impression that you're kind of putting hairspray kind of all over your face. So I wouldn't call this a hydrating product, but for the purposes of oil controlling and mattifying, it does a really good job. I decluttered so many setting sprays, you guys, in December, and I held on to, I want to say 4 total, and this was one of them. All right, as you guys can imagine, if you know me at all, I am a blush fanatic. Most of us are right now. I have 4 different blushes, actually. That's not as many as I thought I was gonna have. All but one of these I have multiple shades in. Let's talk about the oldest one. Let's go Tower 28. These are the Beach Please cream blushes. I have Magic Hour and I have Happy Hour. I feel like we all went wild for these when they released a couple of years ago, but I still think it was for good reason. They're still listed on the Sephora's bestseller list, and I think it's for a couple of reasons. We've seen a ton of different formulas come out that are very similar, mimicking this one from Tower 28, which I feel like was kind of first of its kind, that are a little bit thicker, that offer a radiant finish, that are pretty long lasting. I still love these though. Moira Beauty, again, I'll just give a shout out to them as well, have a very similar formula. I don't think it's the same as this though. These are a little bit thicker, which sometimes I prefer a little bit of a thicker, moussier texture when it comes to a radiant blush. And I'll tell you why. I think they apply more evenly across the cheeks with a variety of different tools that you use. And I also find they don't leave a translucence on the skin. One of the things that I noticed having freckles is that I'm never going to cover everything. And a lot of the freckles on my face, they tend to have like systems of freckles. Anytime I get a blush that's a little bit translucent, it looks funny on my skin because it's not covering evenly across my freckles. That's just my personal experience. It may be different for a lot of people. If I was going for a more natural makeup, no makeup day, it might be nice to have something translucent that just gives me a little bit of flush of color, but oftentimes I just feel like it looks uneven and patchy, where I don't think these do. I think these are really evenly pigmented, so they lay very even on my skin. They're also not translucent, which I was telling you guys. I think they offer something that's really hard to describe, but it's all in the formula. It's all in the formula, and that's why these are really good, still really juicy on the cheeks without being translucent. Let's talk about another one that I have 2 shades in. My other shade is over there. I'm not getting it, but it's the Patrick Ta Double Take Cream and Powder Blush. I don't think I fell for these the same way everybody did when they first came out. Now I absolutely love them. Probably why he expanded the shade ranges, because everybody loved these. So I'm personally just jumping on the bandwagon now, where I feel like a lot of you guys probably loved these for a long time. But this is a unique formula that I feel like the way that he gives us to apply this, which is powder first and the cream on top, which is the opposite way of how we've been taught and how we've learned to apply both products, where we've normally been taught to put cream first and powder first. This formula actually works to do that. It works perfectly. And I don't find that that's true with every single blush. So I don't go around saying, oh, Patrick showed us the way, and now I feel like I just need to do that with every product. I think this one is uniquely formulated to do just that. You can wear this on its own. It's very beautiful. It's an even pigmentation. Again, not translucent. I feel like you can share this out depending upon the tool that you go in with. And the powder blush by itself is uniquely beautiful and even and airbrushing on the skin. But together, they're a little match made in heaven. So you get the uniqueness of having 2 different formulated products in different finishes that you can use individually or you can use them together, which, by the way, I honestly think for someone who hates layering blushes on top of each other, that his style, his method of using this product, which is putting the powder down and then the cream on top of it, is my preferred way to use this. I think it has good hype for good reason. All of you guys who went and picked up like every shade, I don't blame you. I'm gonna stick with 2. The one that I showed you guys is Do We Know Her? The other one that I just picked up is one of the 2 or 3 new shades that he just launched. The next one I have to talk about. I don't feel like enough people talk about it, and when they do, they talk about it being too pigmented. It's the One Size Cheek Clapper. I have loved this since it came out. This is the 3D Blush Trio. This one's in the shade Very That. I've been loving on this thing since it came out. I used to love an intensely pigmented blush, and I still do, don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite products, and I love all different finishes. I have a preference as to how they wear on my skin, but I will try any formula, basically. The reason that I think this is uniquely positioned in the market is that you obviously get 3 different formulas. For the price, I don't think that's bad, and I think every one of these is gorgeous. Cream is opaque, it applies evenly, it's long lasting, the powder is gorgeous and airbrushing. This one you could even use as a highlighter. I don't. I think it's a great blush topper. I also think it has enough pigmentation that you could wear it on its own. I love the intensity of this. The complaints that I've heard about this product is that it's too intense. A lot of people don't like the intense pigmentation. I don't think this is good as building up as the Patrick Ta. I think it comes out a lot more intense right away, but that's my preferred style. So I love that freaking thing. All right, let's move on into the final blush, you guys. I want to talk about the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Blush Wand. I was actually shocked to have seen these on the Sephora's bestseller, and for a couple of reasons, and I'll tell you why. When Charlotte's Pillow Pink Gasm, whatever the heck those shimmery blushes are, which I still have in my collection, 2 years ago, everybody was talking about those. If you guys go and watch my blush ranking video that I did early on when I started my channel, I literally put that pretty low because it emphasized so much texture on my cheeks. It looked super metallic. I personally probably like that product more now than I did at that point. And when these came out, I feel like they did not get received super well. I think people were like, well, this isn't fully matte. There's still a little bit of a radiant finish. Or like, oh, these are fine, but we're all into shimmery blushes at the current moment. And I was like, no, 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 no. No. Charlotte needed to do this because there were people out there that didn't love that metallic finish, emphasize every single bump and whatever that was going on in their face, and that was for me. So I loved these. I think these were a great addition to her line. I want to say she has 4 or 5 shades total, and I recently retested this shade right here in Pink Pop because I was questioning whether or not I reach for pinky shade like this very often. These 2 I could see myself reaching for all the time. However, I decided to keep it because these are so true to what the colors are. here, which doesn't always happen for me. I don't know if that applies to everybody, but I can tell you with a fairer or lighter complexion that oftentimes blushes do not come out on my skin how they look in the pan. And it's kind of frustrating because when you do a brighter eye look, you want the blush to look like what you're looking at in the pan or the tube or the bottle or whatever. And then if it comes out different, it just looks like you didn't know what you were doing with that look and with that blush. I don't know if that's silly to you guys, but that's how makeup is for me. I look at it and I go, well, I want it to match. And when my expectations really are kind of changed, it's a little frustrating. And I think these ones, they come out so true to what they look like here. And that's in the formulation. I think they have decent pigmentation and opacity. They apply evenly. I think you can dot these onto the cheeks and blend them out without it looking funny. Not a lot of formulas in these doe foot applicators can you do that with. Additionally, I think they're a really long lasting formula. I also don't think that they're matte in that they're flat. And I have to keep saying that because people have mentioned, well, they're not fully matte. No, they're matte. They're not flat. There's a difference. These have dimension to them. They do not make your face look immensely flat where it looks like you're laying a pigment of foundation on your skin. That makes sense. So yes, I think these are totally worth the hype. I honestly was, again, told you, I was shocked to even see these on there because I didn't know people liked these very much, but I freaking love them. I want to talk about two different highlighters. Whew, I feel like I've been filming for a while. Okay. The first highlighter that I want to talk about is the Haus Labs Bio Radiant Gel Powder Highlighter. I have mine in the shade Sunstone. I have thoughts on this, you guys. There is 1,000,001 highlighters on the market. This one is in the bestsellers, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like they have a very unique shade range, and even the deeper tones have enough pigmentation that they can be used as blush toppers. And so even people of different skin tones are grabbing for ones that maybe weren't even meant for their particular skin tone. Two, the formula is beautiful and creamy and blends into the skin that looks sparkly but isn't glittery. And also, most of her powder products are made with fermented arnica, which is actually a really good ingredient to put into your skincare. I was using arnica in a very diluted form. I was taking little pills of arnica after my surgery. It helps to reduce swelling and bruising, and it speeds up the recovery process. And so far as I know, Haus Labs is the only one to put fermented arnica in anything. You can add it to every one of my makeup products. I am totally good with that. It's a good ingredient to have on your face. It's a beautiful product. The shade range is good, etc., etc. This is just a really good product. The next ones I want to talk about are the Rare Beauty Silky Touch Positive Light Silky Touch Highlighters. Whew! The name is not on here and it always escapes me because it's so freaking long. There's a couple of reasons I love Rare Beauty products, and one of them being is the affordability. She still remains a mid-range price point amongst the brands in Sephora. Tower 28 being another one, LYS being another one. Hopefully they stay in that mid-range price point. I think they're absolutely stunning. I think Moira Beauty, again, I'm just gonna keep mentioning Moira, has a very similar formula. They have their Dreamlight highlighters. They're not exactly the same, but they are the literal closest things to these. And I think those retail for $8 a piece, where these are $22, $25 a piece. These are very different from the Haus Labs ones. The Haus Labs ones have a little bit more texture, even though they melt into the skin. These are more luminous, but they're basically like powdered silk. That's kind of what I equate them to. I even feel like you could use these as eyeshadow, for example, because they have good light reflection, but they're basically like powdered silk. A lot of people have said that theirs are very fragile, and a lot of people have said they've broken them. I have too, and I haven't. However, the new blushes that come in exactly this style and exactly this dome shape, one did come broken from Sephora, but if you know their shipping, you know that they literally put like paper in there and like call it a day and just throw all the products in. So I blame it more on Sephora than the actual product itself. Like, who knows UPS is kicking around those packages. Let's move on into lip products. I have 5 different lip products here. There were a ton of different lip products on the Sephora bestseller, and I've got some thoughts, you guys, I really do. So the first ones that I want to talk about are the most confusing of them all. These are YSL, who knows what they're called now. So now they've come out with the YSL Love Shine Lip Oil Stick, but they've had their Candy Glaze Lip Gloss Stick in their line. They have renamed these. They have also repackaged them. I now have the old style packaging. Now the YSL goes around instead of kind of up and down and around. But they did not reformulate the Candy Glaze lip gloss sticks, and I think that's the equivalent formula that I have. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I've mentioned these so many times on my channel. In lipstick declutters, I've probably even talked about these in some other Sephora's bestsellers or recommendation videos that I have done. I haven't done a lot of them, but I feel like the last one that I did, I also talked about this. The reason that I feel like these keep making it into my few videos or why these are on the Sephora's bestseller is a couple of reasons. The first is the packaging. Who doesn't remember this packaging? Everybody remembers it. It's unique, it's beautiful, it's sturdy. These are nice to have in your collection. It's a higher price point that seems to make sense for what you're getting when it shows up at your door. You can display these. But let's talk about the formula. They're more of a sheer buildable formula, but I feel like you can build up the intensity on these. You can keep kind of like layering them on top. It'll build up the pigmentation. I think the name of these is perfect. Lip gloss stick. That's what they feel like a really thin lip gloss / balm in a stick formula. They're so smooth on the lips. Again, I will use the word silk here. That's how I feel like it feels when I'm applying them, so much so I just want to keep doing it over and over. This is a product that I would just like keep applying because it felt so good to put on. But also, YSL uniquely positioned themselves not to smell like shit. I'm just gonna say it. A lot of high-end brands throw in perfume. YSL made these smell like freaking pina colada. Made them smell like a fruity drink on a tropical island. They probably have a ton of preservatives in them. I'm okay with that personally because these are the best smelling luxury brand lip products I have. And I think that's one of the reasons that it also makes them very unique and very pleasurable to use. I would buy so many more of these. Quite honestly, I think every aspect of them is very good and or just excites me. I have two lip products here, both of them wound up on the Sephora's bestseller list, but they're both different formulas. One is the Signature Lip from Merit. This one is in the satin finish. There are 1,000,001 satin formulas on the market. There's a couple of reasons I think this one is unique. As it relates to satin finished formulas that sell on Sephora's website, Merit's decently priced. The shade range I think is really good. It's limited, but I think it's really good. And this is more of a sheer buildable formula. I like that you can take this product and layer it on for a light bit of pigmentation, or you can just keep building without it being gloopy, messy, gross to get more pigmentation. Again, one swipe will get you something a little bit more sheer. You keep going, it'll be a little bit more intense. I wouldn't even call this like a satin. I would call their matte formula a satin. I would say this is more balm to cream light. That's how I feel about this. And also the packaging. Again, I have to give it to packaging. Anytime something is sturdy and aesthetically pleasing, when we pay, I don't want something that looks super cheap or the packaging breaks on me. I would say though, Merit's cheapest product is probably their bronzing stick. I mean, it's like fully plastic. It's fine though. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this component. However, I just think the packaging on these lipsticks is really sturdy and very nice and aesthetically pleasing. Let's also talk about their matte formula. So I just mentioned that I feel like this is more of a satin finish than it is like a fully matte finish, which is just Merit's version of making a matte formula. There's a lot of companies out there that do that. Again, I think they make great neutral tones. In this particular line, I feel like the matte formula performs differently than the satin one, that it's more pigmented and it lasts longer and it does everything that it's supposed to do, but it's even and it's comfortable, and the packaging. I just enjoy both of those products. I like having these in my collection. I like the way they look in my collection and I like using them. Let's talk about two balms. I'm going to talk about one that I find personally controversial. This was one of my favorite product releases of 2023, but the reason I think it's controversial to me now is that I have tested other ones in this, like other shades, and they're just not the same. This is the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm. This one is in Vanilla Beige. I talked about this being a lot of things in addition to the formula. One is that you get a ton of products in here, a lot more than you do than I feel like with a lot of other brands, but also I feel like this packaging was just very unique, and that it's like this rubbery tip that is perfectly curved for my shape of my lip personally, that it doesn't have like a strong angled edge, which I just don't feel like is realistic for people's lips. It has like a slight curve in it, which is more natural to what people's lip shapes are. I just felt like they went through the thought process in building the component well. The quality control was really well done and it's comfortable on your lips. It's not like a hard plastic piece that you put on. It's a rubbery or silicone piece. I thought all of that was great, but the formula itself is also fantastic. It's smooth, it's thick, it's high shine, it's buildable, all the good stuff. And it smelled delicious in vanilla beige. Now, why I think it's controversial for me now is that I've tried the limited edition birthday cake and it's gross. I've already totally gotten rid of it, and the reason being is that the formula is sticky. And even with a light layer, it does that weird thing on the inside of my mouth. It's very goopy. It also looks like a frosty hot mess on me in birthday cake. It's almost got like sparkles in it, and they make my lips look super frosty and washed out and weird. So I don't like the shade. I don't like the formula in birthday cake. And I also do not like the scent. I don't think it smells like birthday cake at all. And I think that's what they were going for. Whereas this one feels like completely pleasant and totally different formula. So I think buyer beware, they're not all made equal. As far as I know, birthday cake was a limited edition shade and it's recently released, but everybody else that's tried the ones that came out originally has really enjoyed them. I would just say like avoid birthday cake personally. The very final product, you guys, I know I did a lot of talking today, was the Tower 28 Lip Softy. I was a little bit surprised to see these on the Sephora's bestseller too, because I don't think people have been loving these the way that I have. I have mine in the shade Dolce de Leche. I've even heard some people complain about like the component being round and then it gets a little bit messy. Like, I'll give it a rest. It's fine. It doesn't personally bother me. I think it's just fine, especially because it's tinted lip treatment. Anyway, I have just been really getting into things that have more flavor to them, or lip products that claim to be flavorful, if that makes sense. This one in Dolce de Leche smells delicious. It smells like a dessert. It's super pleasant to put on your lips. It's something that I literally could just keep applying over and over. It's also smooth and lightly tinted, and I feel like it's nourishing. I think the best thing about it is honestly, it just smells really good and it tastes really good. I know taste is a weird thing to say about a lip product, but it gets in your mouth. I mean, it's almost unavoidable. There's so many products that you'll end up like licking your lips, and because of the scent, it'll totally destroy the experience. So I guess I kind of do have to say taste. This tastes great. It's one of the few products that I feel like have come out now that have been flavored that stand out to me. So maybe that is why it landed on the Sephora's bestseller list, you guys. That was my 19 products that I think are actually worth the hype. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you're not currently subscribed, I'd love to see you subscribe. I'm out of here, and I hope to catch y'all in my next one. Bye, guys.